Right now, there's a roof over your head. You have waterproof shoes by the door, a phone that tells you when the rain will start, an umbrella you forgot somewhere, and a coffee shop 2 blocks away if you really need to escape it. Rain is barely an inconvenience to you. It's something you watch through a window. So here's a question nobody thinks to ask. What did ancient humans do when it rained? Not medieval humans, not Romans hiding under marble columns, not even ancient Egyptians. We're going back further than that. 100,000 years, 200,000 years, back before roofs, before walls, before fabric that didn't soak through in seconds, just people standing in the open when the sky opened up. But first you need to understand something. To an ancient human, rain wasn't weather. It was an event. A big one. Most of us have never experienced rain the way they did. We see it through glass. They felt it on bare skin, in their hair, soaking into the only clothing they owned for the next 3 days. There was no drying rack, no fire that wouldn't smoke when it was wet, no way to escape it except to stop moving and wait. And here's what nobody tells you. They waited a lot. Anthropologist Richard Lee studied the Juhwanzi people of southern Africa for decades, one of the last groups still living something close to the original human lifestyle. He documented what happened when storms rolled in. The whole group stopped. Hunting paused. Foraging paused. Everyone gathered in shelter and stayed there, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. They called it being weather-bound. That phrase sounds boring. It wasn't, because what happened in those hours of being weather-bound is where humans became human. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wisner studied conversation patterns in the same Juhwanzi communities. She recorded what people talked about during the day versus what they talked about at night and during long shelter periods. Her finding was remarkable. During the day, conversations were practical, about food, about tools, about who was going where. But once people were stuck inside with nothing else to do, the conversations changed completely. They became stories, long ones, about ancestors, about spirits, about the time someone's grandfather killed a lion, about what happened to people who broke the rules of the tribe. 81% of all evening and shelter conversations were storytelling. This wasn't entertainment. Not really. Wisner argues these stories were how culture itself was transmitted. Without writing, every law, every memory, every rule of how to be a person, all of it lived in stories told when people were trapped inside together. Rain wasn't an interruption to civilization. It was the time civilization got built. But there's something else that happened during the rain, something stranger. In 2003, archaeologists excavating a site in Central Europe found a cluster of small carved figures, animal bones shaped into birds, into fish, into human shapes. They were 30,000 years old. The strange part wasn't the carvings themselves. It was where they were found. All of them in shelter sites. All of them in places that would have been used during a long indoor periods. Storms, winter, times when people couldn't go outside. Carving a figure from bone with a stone tool takes hours of close, patient work. You can't do it while walking. You can't do it while hunting. You can only do it sitting still indoors, with light enough to see by and time enough to not care about anything else. Bad weather made art possible, not because anyone needed it, because the alternative was staring at the wall. And then there's the third thing, the one that mattered most. Every culture on Earth has a flood myth, every single one. All of them separated by oceans and thousands of years, all telling versions of the same story. Anthropologists have argued for over a century about what this means. Some say it traces back to a single real event, a glacial flood at the end of the last ice age. But the more interesting theory is simpler than that. Rain made gods. When you have no science, no meteorology, no understanding of evaporation or pressure systems, rain is the most powerful force you've ever encountered. It could save your life by filling the rivers. It can end your life by washing away your shelter. It comes from the sky for reasons you cannot see. It stops for reasons you cannot understand. Anything that powerful and that mysterious eventually gets a name, and then a personality, and then a story, and then a religion. The first gods in almost every culture were weather gods. Thor in Scandinavia, Tlaloc in Mesoamerica, Zeus, the thunderers, in Greece. Before there were gods of love or war or harvest, there were gods of rain. Because rain was the first thing humans could not control and could not ignore. Boredom invented art. Rain invented God. So here's where we've ended up. Hunter-gatherers stuck in shelter, telling stories that would become culture. People carving figures from bone because they had a long afternoon and nowhere to go. And somewhere across thousands of generations, people staring up at a sky they couldn't understand, deciding that something must be up there, listening. And here's the part nobody talks about. There's a feeling most people get when it rains. A specific feeling. You're inside, you can hear it on the windows, and your shoulders drop. Your breathing unslows. You feel safe in a way that is almost too deep to explain. Sleep researchers have studied this. They call it rain-induced calm, and it shows up in heart rate, in cortisol levels, in measurable brain activity. Pink noise from rain matches the frequency the brain produces during deep rest. That feeling isn't random, it's 200,000 years old. For most of human history, rain meant you got to stop. Your nervous system learned, over thousands of generations, that the sound of rain meant rest was permitted. You feel calm when it rains because your ancestors did. Every time you sit by a window and watch the rain fall, every time you feel that strange contentment with nothing to do, you're doing the same thing the person in the cave was doing 100,000 years ago. The same thing that made them tell their first stories. The same thing that made them carve their first figures. The same thing that made them look up at the sky and wonder if anyone was up there. Rain didn't slow ancient humans down. It's what gave them time to become human. And it might be doing the same thing for you, if you let it.